I want to take a moment and discuss the impact of the amount of data and the distribution of data in your database for any execution plans you generate. And specifically what I am getting at is the size and contents of your database in your development and test environments as opposed to your production environment. The way the Oracle Optimizer calculates the cost of various operations is based on database statistics. These are the statistics that tell Oracle how many rows are in a table, what is the distribution of values within a column, and how selective an index is. These statistics are in turn based on the data that is present in your database, that is, the actual data populating your tables. So if you have different data between two different regions, the Oracle Optimizer will probably give you different execution plans. Each execution plan is correct for its region, but because the two regions contain different data, the answers you get will not translate between those two different regions. What often happens in an organization is that the production database is a full-size database. However, the databases used in development and test regions are scaled-down versions. While all of the schema objects are the same, these databases may only contain a few thousand rows of data. So in this case, if you take a SQL statement and get an execution plan in dev or test, it is quite likely that this execution plan will not match the execution plan you would get in production. And the reason why is because the size of the data is different between the two regions, meaning the Oracle Optimizer is going to make different decisions. Let's see an example of this. I am back in SQL Developer, and what I have done is create a new table, Course Enrollment Small, and this table only has about 4,500 rows in it. So we're simulating the scenario we might have in a development region or even a test region where we have only a small subset of the data loaded. Other than the number of rows in the table, everything else is the same, so the same columns, the same indexes, and so on. So let's generate our execution plan and see what we get. We see that we have the execution plan and it has a cost of 3, so much lower than what we had before. Notice as well though, the steps in our execution plan are very different than before. Where before the innermost and therefore first operation was an index range scan on the IX Course Enroll Student ID index, now Oracle is first looking at the grades table. In fact, even though the Course Enrollment Small table has an index on the Student ID column, Oracle is choosing not to use it, instead deciding that a full table scan is more efficient. We also notice that Oracle is no longer performing hash join operations, but instead is using nested loop joins. The point here isn't to go through each individual difference and explain why Oracle made the decisions that it did, but to illustrate that the amount of data that you have in your database makes a difference in the execution plans that will be generated. The difference is not just in the total cost Oracle reports for the SQL statement, but what operations are chosen and how Oracle arranges these operations is also impacted. You want to make sure that you have an environment available that is representative of your production database, both in terms of the amount of data and the distribution of the data that the database contains. It is this environment where you want to conduct performance tuning and testing. This includes generating and analyzing execution plans and any performance tuning for a statement that you might do. As we've just seen, if we're in an environment where our data differs significantly from what we have in production, we're at risk of a couple of things happening. First, we may not detect a performance issue that exists because we don't have enough data or the right data to see how Oracle is really processing the statement. And so consequently, if you're not doing performance testing until the end of your project, you could end up with a lot of last-minute rework, or worse yet, if you don't do any performance testing at all, you may be working to do some emergency fixes once your application is deployed to production, and of course this is something we want to avoid. The second risk you run is that in getting a different execution plan than what the statement is going to be using in production, you might make some incorrect decisions about how to tune your SQL statement. And so the tuning you do may only be partially effective or not effective at all. Again, this is a scenario we want to avoid because all of our time is valuable and we want to spend our time and energies working on the most important things.